Hello everybody and welcome to Bear Beer Reviews. For tonight's little review we have a wonderfully corked and caged little bottle here. This is Meantime's London Porter. This one has been kindly gifted to me by my two friends Hannah and Dave. It was my birthday recently and this was their birthday present to me, and I'm really looking forward to it. The last porter we had by Meantime was actually one they did for Marks and Spencer's, and it was a Greenwich Meantime Porter, I think. It was a barrel-aged barrel-aged porter, so I'm assuming this is the base one for it, and if it is, I can imagine it can be nothing but good. Means I'm quite a big brewery now, kind of in, well, obviously in Greenwich, in just across the river in South London, but they still seem to pop out quite some few interesting beers all the time. They've got a really interesting dry hopping machine called a Dry Hopnik, if they still have it. It was in a book I was reading about IPAs by Mitch Steele. So they do have some pretty hop forward beers with these like special dry hopping machines. Now this is pouring and it's looking really quite clear and a lot brighter than I thought it would be. I mean, in terms of porter styles, the old style London porters used to be quite dry and quite dry and roasty, really. Not too dissimilar to an Irish dry stout, but a little bit sweeter, really. And obviously they're really known for it. They just say this is a complex beer style, and they're a classic interpretation of it. Nothing really other than that. Although when it does pour out, when it's a bit more, when it's in a bit bigger glass, it's still kind of got a ruby tinge around the outside edge of it. It just doesn't seem as dark as some other porters can be, and that's not a problem. Lovely matte head on it. Really is lacing beautifully as well, you can see, sticking to the sides of the glass really well. It's going to be, well, it is a pretty beer and it's going to lace really beautifully too. So, on the nozzle. Yeah, there's actually quite a lot of dark fruits in this. And so it's quite plummy, also a bit smoky. Like a little bit of rock malt in there, that kind of tiny bit of smoky bacon flavour. And a bit of roast coming through too, but I mean, dominating the nose and aroma, I'd certainly say there's a smoky quality to it, which is very interesting. I mean, all malts used to be pretty much smoked. We didn't particularly roast them until, until modern era, really. They used to be kind of just charred above beechwood, so that's probably the classic interpretation where it's come from, I'd assume. It smells quite sweet too, so it's not as dry as I thought it might be, but at least on the nose, so yeah, smells quite interesting. It smells intriguing more than anything. Can't wait to give it a try. Cheers everyone. Right, it's actually got a really light body to it. It's medium. It's light to medium rather than kind of thicker and chunky. It's very quaffable. There's a lot of carbonation to it as well. It's certainly not watery. It's got lots of presence. It's just mouthfeel is very light, very light. I think it's 6.5% as well. So you think there'll be some kind of body, a little bit of body from alcohol, but it's not as chunky as. I'm gonna say it's not as chunky as I'd like. But in terms of flavour, yeah, there is that kind of tiny bit of smoky bacon flavour, but there's a nice bit of roast behind it. There's kind of toasted notes. A little bit of ashy charring in a good way, that little bit of kind of black malt flavour. It is dry, it smelled maybe like it had a bit of sweetness to it, but it is quite dry and obviously very light in body. Nice little bitness that crusts up with the palate a little bit. And it's certainly intriguing in terms of flavour. It's, yeah, it's not as smoky as a Rauk beer, and it won't be. It's not as smoked as a dark Rauk beer or anything like that, but it has that kind of savoury, bacony note. Definitely not unpleasant. Suits it really well. And although I could smell kind of plummy and a bit of kind of maybe a sort of Belgian malty flavour, that's not coming through in the palate. It's certainly like dry and roast and smoky bacon and a bit of coffee perhaps. It's not very chocolatey or cocoa-y, it's just more of those kind of drier and roasty notes. And I do like it. I think it's really nice. I think the body is a bit of a letdown though. I just like my porters and stouts a little bit more, just a little bit more to them. It's a little bit too soft and fritzy. Spritzy, not fritzy. Spritzy. It just doesn't... You could have told me this was a dark mild, like a slightly smoked dark mild, and I would have believed you. The body just doesn't give it the enough emphasis. It's 6.5%, but it just drinks a little bit too easy for that. It just doesn't sit right with me, and I don't dislike it, but it's not going to get as high a score because of that. I think I'm going to go for a 7.5 with this. I'd certainly have several glasses, and I probably will. This would be a nice sipping bottle to share over the course of the evening. But it just the body lets it down a little bit. The flavours are still quite good in there. Yeah, the flavours are good, but I do like the body on a beer to be a certain way, I suppose, and that's what lets this one down. And it just doesn't seem to. It's a little bit interesting, but it just isn't. It's not as fantastically wowing as I thought it could be. It's very solid, but that's what it is. It's quite solid. That's all I really have to say. Please like, favourite, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. It's certainly not a bad beer. Like I said, it's very good. It's very standard, and it's certainly drinkable. I recommend it to try. It's an interesting one, and it's got that slight little twist with the kind of smoky flavours in it. Just not my favourite. Just not isn't going to be my favourite, especially with a lack of body. So, thank you so much for watching. Until the next beer review. Cheers, everyone.